Good morning. My name is Veronica Escobar. I am a high school teacher here at Geo High School, actually. And I don't know if I have so much as a question, but more of a concern about what it's like being a high school teacher, especially here in this community right now. Not so recently, but a few months ago, we saw a lot in the news about ICE raids, and it was a big worry about, are they going to come onto our campus? And though I trust my administration to keep us safe, to keep our students safe, I worry about that on a daily basis. I have no way of knowing which one of my students are here legally, or even if their parents are, and I don't care if they are or not. My job here is to teach them. But it's very hard to teach them when they are as worried as I am. I worry about if they're going to go visit family in Mexico, are they going to be able to come back? I worry about, why should I worry about if they're doing their homework if they don't even know if they're going to make it tomorrow, if they're going to be picked up tomorrow, if their family's going to be picked up tomorrow. And this is a huge concern, not just for me, but a lot of my colleagues. And I guess, again, not so much of a question, but I just want to throw that out there so that you understand that we as a community, we're scared of this happening to us. And if there's anything that you can do, any influence that you have to help stop this, to help just put an end to this so that we have one less thing to worry about in education, we would really appreciate it.
Thank you for teaching our kids. Agree, and I will tell you, Border Patrol and ICE used to have a long-standing policy that they would not go into certain areas for enforcement purposes. Churches, clinics, courthouses, which has been thrown out the window, schools. And actually that policy, just for everyone's information, that policy originated here because in the early 1990s, we had a Border Patrol sector chief sending Border Patrol agents into Bowie High School. Oh. Do you all remember that? To essentially make students and teachers and administrators prove that they were in the country legally, that they were following people home, coaches home, personnel home, following students who were walking home. El Paso sued. And it was Bowie High School administrators and an organization that I was an activist with, the Border Rights Coalition, and the agreement, the settlement agreement, was this policy, which Trump repealed as soon as he became president. Let me tell you what I did do. I immediately called the Border Patrol sector chief here, the ICE acting director here. I called local elected officials, mayor, county judge, superintendents, others, and seated at the head of the table were our Department of Homeland Security leaders here in El Paso. And I asked them both, will you be doing this in El Paso? Our local community needs to know. And they need to know, what should they be prepared for? Should they be scared for their students? Should they be scared for their patients in the hospital? CEOs, should they be worried that anyone's gonna, that ICE will bust in through their doors, etc. I also said, I need you to give me phone numbers for each one of these superintendents and for the mayor, the county judge, etc. Because if they hear of this happening on school property or on county property or on city property, who do they call? I want you to give me a number, and they did. They gave phone numbers, so we made sure that the superintendents have it. They assured us they were not going to be doing enforcement at the schools. And if any superintendent heard of that, to call them directly. So I did that right away, convened that group. Ever does happen, and we're having quarterly meetings so that there's accountability here locally. So I'm doing everything I can to continue to convene people so that the local DHS folks are in front of community folks and can answer to what's going on locally. Thank you.
A high school teacher, Ricky Reed, stood up to share his fears about what it's like to teach in a community living under the shadow of immigration enforcement. He explained that although his role is to educate, it becomes nearly impossible when students and their families are consumed with fear. The teacher said he does not know which students are in the country legally, nor does he care, because his responsibility is to teach every child in his classroom. What worries him is that many students are distracted and anxious, wondering if their families will be safe tomorrow, if they will be able to return from visiting relatives in Mexico, or if they might suddenly face separation. For him and many of his colleagues, these are not abstract issues. These fears directly affect the ability to maintain a normal learning environment. In response, Representative Veronica Escobar, Democrat, Texas, acknowledged the teacher's concerns and explained how immigration enforcement policies have shifted. She reminded the audience that in the past, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Border Patrol followed a policy of avoiding enforcement in sensitive locations such as schools, churches, clinics, and courthouses. That policy itself, she noted, had originated in El Paso during the 1990s after a lawsuit against the Border Patrol. At the time, agents had been entering schools like Bowie High School and even following students and staff home to check their immigration status. The resulting legal settlement created protections that kept schools off limits for enforcement. However, Escobar pointed out that these protections were removed during the Trump administration, reigniting fears in border communities. Escobar described the steps she took once the policy was rescinded. She immediately contacted the Border Patrol Sector Chief, the acting ICE director, and local officials including the mayor, county judge, and school superintendents. She demanded clarity about whether enforcement would take place on school grounds in El Paso. In those meetings, Department of Homeland Security leaders assured her that schools would not be targeted. To provide accountability, Escobar insisted that superintendents and other local leaders be given direct phone numbers to call if any enforcement activity occurred on school property. She also set up quarterly meetings with DHS officials so that local leaders could hold them directly accountable. Her response was meant to reassure teachers, parents, and students that efforts were being made to keep schools as safe spaces, free from the fear of immigration raids. The issue, however, remains a source of deep concern for educators who feel the constant stress of trying to maintain classrooms where learning can thrive while students silently worry about the stability of their families.